My friends, many of you may have heard the sad news of the tragic passing of Rabbi David Feinstein this past week. Rabbi Feinstein was known as the foremost halachic authority, the foremost decisor of Jewish law in our generation in America. Although many of us might have known him, and we're not going to actually deliver a eulogy, we're not fit to do so, I think that it's incumbent upon us here in Dallas to at least discuss a little bit this loss and what it means to us. The Talmud says that the loss of a great tzaddik is tantamount to the loss of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, of the temple in Jerusalem. And this bears and needs explanation. How could that be? One explanation is that one of the functions of the temple in Yerushalayim was that it was the seat of judgment for Klal Yisrael. The Sanhedrin Agdola, the great Jewish court of 71 sages, sat in Yerushalayim in the Beis HaMikdash, in the special chamber in the temple, and all of the difficult decisions that could not be resolved and answered by the rabbis throughout the land of Israel were brought to that body, who were able to deliver the most difficult decisions. This, says the Ramban, was considered a continuation of Har Sinai, of Mount Sinai, that never really stopped in Klal Yisrael during the entire times we had the temple, that the most profound and difficult questions always could be answered in this place in the Beis HaMikdash. There was nothing too difficult for them to resolve or to answer. The Talmud says further that B'shachar Beis HaMikdash, from the time of the destruction of the temple, once we lost the temple, the only replacement that we have for the temple is the 4 L's of halacha, those that are able to decide the most difficult halachic decisions, the sages of Israel. And when we had somebody like Rabbi David Feinstein in America, then we had an address to go to that the most profound and difficult questions, whether for large Jewish organizations or for individuals in their lives and their businesses and in their families and their daily lives, could bring and know that they're going to come out with clarity with an answer. The Beis HaMikdash provided clarity to Klal Yisrael, and a man like Rabbi Feinstein also provided clarity to Klal Yisrael, like his giant father, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, of legendary proportions throughout the history of Klal Yisrael. We rarely had a person like him, and his voluminous responsa answered thousands of questions which were brought to the generation. When he was lost, when he left us, he left behind a son, Rabbi David, who continued that great legacy, that incredible, profound ability to answer all questions. We have lost that now, and there really isn't somebody to replace him. The second aspect, I think, is that it says that from the time of the destruction of the temple, we no longer have the altar, the Mizbeach. The person's table brings him the atonement. The table of a person signifies chesed, kindness, giving food to those who need it, giving help, lending a helping hand to those that are in trouble or have need uplifting or need a word of consolation or a word of strength. Rabbi Feinstein was known, and it's really difficult to understand, with all of his responsibilities to all of Klal Yisrael and the multiple institutions which he advised, in his own yeshiva, which he taught in and had thousands of students. He had found the time to literally help in big and small ways thousands of individuals and many, many institutions in the most amazing, loving and kind ways. The kindness we find among the sages usually goes hand in hand. The greatness in Torah study goes hand in hand with the greatness in kindness and chesed. And Rabbi Feinstein was no exception to that, that the stories that are coming out during the time of the Shiva, during the time of his eulogies, are just mind-boggling, of the sincere caring that he had for every single Jew, and the love that he focused on the needs of that particular Jew, not what he wanted to do for them, but what they really needed for themselves, even to the point of his love and kindness to small children. One story was told that it was time for Rabbi Feinstein to be taken from a chasana or from a simcha to be brought home by a certain man whose son was there with him. And the son was enjoying some cake and some nash from the simcha, and it was time for Feinstein to leave. So the man told the son, "Okay, we'll leave this behind, and we'll go and take Rabbi Feinstein. We'll worry about this later." Rabbi Feinstein said, "You don't understand. Right now, this plate of cake for this little boy is his whole life. It's the most important thing in the world. How could you take him away from that just to take me? I can wait a few minutes." And he sat and waited till the little boy finished his cake, and finished his nash and to take him then, because he focused on the needs of that little boy. That's what was important to him. That became important to Rabbi Feinstein. Another similar story was told that he was walking by in the yeshiva and saw that a boy was sad because he said, "What's wrong?" He said, "He lost his quarter in the vending machine. They tried to get some cake out of there and he lost his quarter. Nothing came out." So Rabbi Feinstein had keys to the whole yeshiva. Not that he knew how to work that machine, but he had a key to that as well. So he bent down on his knees and opened up the machine and tried to work out to get the quarter out of there. So somebody walked by and said, "Rosh Hashiva, our dean, there's important people in your office waiting to meet with you. Somebody else could take you. Why are you involved with this?" He said, "This boy lost his quarter. That's important to him right now. That's as important to him as these people's meeting it is to them. They can wait a few minutes and we'll first resolve this boy's quarter, then we'll go to the meeting." And the stories like this abound about Rabbi Feinstein, how he truly focused on the individual and the love that he had for every individual Jew. Torah's Chaim v'Avas Chesed, the Torah of life, the clarity of Torah, v'Avas Chesed, and the love of kindness that he had to help every single Jew. This is a tremendous loss, and there's nobody to make this up. We do have the thousands of students that he taught. We have ourselves the trickle-down effect, although we might not have known him personally, but the ripple effect and the trickle-down effect from the very top where he was sitting with all his humility and all of his self-effacement, but still his greatness could not be hidden. And that stretched out to the entire generation. It illuminated so much darkness on our generation. We're living in a time of so much confusion, of so much darkness, so much lack of clarity. And a person like that manifested clarity, manifested light, illumination, joy, simcha, love. And all we can do now to mourn his loss is for ourselves to strengthen ourselves in our Torah study, to try to work harder on learning deeply, clarifying our own knowledge of halacha, our own knowledge of Torah, and to go out of our way to look out for the needs of those around us, our own family, our children. If one of your own children comes home with a project from school, don't push it off. Realize that's the most important thing in the world to him or her at that moment. Realize the importance of things in the life of your spouse, of your friends, of your coworkers, people that are around you. Reach out and see how you can help other people, and in that way, it'll be a little bit of a nachama, a little bit of a comforting for the loss of such a giant, such a huge person in our generation, that will do a little bit to make up what's lacking, what's missing. And with Hashem, we will all bring ourselves one step closer to the Gula Shlema, to the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, and coming back to the true Beis HaMikdash, Meher V'Yameinu, speedily in our days.